What if I told you the reason your life hasn't changed yet is not because you're unlucky, not because people are against you, and not because you haven't tried hard enough, but because of one quiet habit you keep repeating every single day? Let that sink in. Right now, as you're watching this, there is a pattern in your life quietly shaping your future. Not loudly, not dramatically, but consistently. And the most dangerous part? You've probably learned to live with it, you've explained it away, you've normalized it, you've even told yourself, this is just how I am. But what if that normal habit is the very thing keeping you stuck, keeping you tired, keeping you behind, keeping you watching other people live the life you secretly want? Listen carefully. Toxic habits don't destroy people overnight, they do something far more dangerous. They drain you slowly, one late night at a time, one procrastinated decision at a time, one negative thought at a time, until one day, you wake up and barely recognize the life you're living. And here's the truth, most people are too uncomfortable to admit. Your future is being built right now by what you repeatedly tolerate. But today, that changes. Because in the next few minutes, you're going to learn the 5 powerful steps to transform toxic habits before they quietly sabotage your peace, your growth, and your potential. And I need you to stay with me, because step 1 requires brutal honesty. And step 3, that's where most people emotionally fold. If you truly want your life to change, you must be willing to have an uncomfortable conversation with yourself. No filters, no soft excuses, no emotional shortcuts. Because the first step to transforming any toxic habit is painfully simple. You must stop protecting it. You see, most people don't actually struggle to change. They struggle to be honest. They rename their toxic habits to make them easier to live with. They say, I'm just tired. I work better under pressure. I just need to relax. I've always been like this. But deep down, there is a quiet voice inside you that already knows the truth. It knows which habit is stealing your time. It knows which pattern keeps repeating in your life. It knows the thing you keep doing, even when you promised yourself you would stop. And the longer you sugarcoat it, the longer it stays in control. Because listen carefully to this. You cannot heal what you keep excusing. You cannot change what you keep justifying. And you cannot outgrow what you refuse to confront. Real awareness is uncomfortable. It requires you to sit with yourself, without distraction, without denial, without blaming circumstances, and ask the question most people avoid: what am I doing repeatedly that is quietly holding me back? Not your friends, not your boss, not your past. You, your patterns, your daily choices. This is not about shame. This is about power. Because the moment you clearly identify the toxic habit, you take the first step toward breaking its grip. So right now, I want you to pause mentally and be brutally honest. What is the one habit in your life, without any doubt, is costing you growth? Name it. Own it. Because transformation does not begin with motivation. It begins with truth. Now that you've faced the habit, we have to talk about something most people completely miss. Your toxic habit is not the real problem. Pause. Let that land. Because what you see on the surface, the scrolling, the procrastinating, the emotional eating, that is only the symptom. The real driver is hidden underneath. It's the trigger. And this is where things get uncomfortable. Because triggers force you to look at emotions most people spend their entire lives trying to avoid. Stress, loneliness, boredom, rejection, overwhelm, self-doubt. Your habit didn't appear randomly. It showed up the moment your nervous system was trying to protect you from discomfort. Listen carefully. Your brain is not trying to ruin your life. It's trying to soothe your pain. Fast. That late night scrolling, quick dopamine, that procrastination, temporary relief from pressure. That emotional eating, comfort when something inside feels empty. Your brain chose the fastest escape available and then repeated it until it became automatic. That's how toxic habits are born, not from weakness, from emotional avoidance. Think about your habit again, not what you do, but when you do it. Is it when you feel overwhelmed? When you feel behind in life? When you feel unappreciated? When you're alone with your thoughts? There is always a pattern. Always. And the moment you identify your personal trigger, something powerful happens. You stop feeling out of control. Because now you can see the sequence: trigger, urge, habit, temporary relief, regret, repeat. That loop has been running your life quietly in the background. But awareness breaks invisibility. Here is the truth most people don't want to hear. If you don't deal with the emotion, you will keep feeding the habit over and over again. In different forms, different seasons, same cycle. So your mission in this step is simple, but not easy. Start catching the moment before the habit. Start noticing the emotional weather inside you. Because transformation doesn't start when you stop the habit, it starts when you understand why it keeps calling your name. This, right here, is the breaking point between people who stay stuck and people who actually transform their lives. Because once you know your trigger, you have a choice to make. And most people, without realizing it, choose autopilot. They feel the urge, and within seconds, they surrender to the same behavior. Not because they're weak, because the brain loves familiar relief. Habits are not broken in big, dramatic moments. They are broken in tiny, almost invisible interruptions. In the space between the urge and the action. That space is your power. But here's the problem. For most people, that space is only a few seconds long, sometimes less. And if you don't interrupt the pattern, your old behavior wins automatically every single time. Think about how many times you've said, just this once. I'll stop tomorrow. One more time won't hurt. But tomorrow came, and the pattern was still there. Because willpower alone is unreliable under emotional pressure. What works better? Preparation. You must decide ahead of time what you will do when the trigger appears, not in the moment, before the moment. High-disciplined people don't rely on motivation. They rely on interruption rituals, simple, physical, immediate actions like standing up instantly, taking 5 slow, deep breaths, drinking a full glass of water, stepping outside for 60 seconds, counting backward from 5, changing rooms, putting the phone face down. These actions look small, almost too simple. But don't underestimate what's happening neurologically. You are breaking the automatic loop. You are forcing consciousness back online. You are reminding your nervous system, I am not a prisoner of this pattern. And the more times you successfully interrupt the habit, the weaker its grip becomes. Right now, I want you to choose your interruption ritual. Not later. Not someday. What is the one action you will take the next time the urge appears? Decide it, because clarity in calm moments creates control in emotional moments. Listen, you don't need to be perfect. You don't need to win every battle. But every time you interrupt the pattern, even once, you are rewiring your future in real time. And that is how real change begins. Every time you interrupt the pattern, even once, you win. This is how real change begins. Because this is where thousands of people sabotage their own progress without even realizing it. They try to remove the toxic habit, but they leave a vacuum behind. And the human brain does not tolerate vacuums. You see, your brain is not just addicted to the behavior. It is attached to the relief the behavior provides, the distraction, the comfort, the emotional escape, the momentary silence from whatever pressure you've been carrying. So when you simply say, I'm done with this habit, your brain quietly panics. Because from its perspective, something important just disappeared. And when the brain feels deprived, it doesn't negotiate. It goes hunting. Hunting for the fastest way back to familiar relief. That's why people quit for a few days. Feel strong. Feel motivated. And then suddenly, almost out of nowhere, they slip right back into the same behavior. Not because they lack discipline, because they removed the habit, but never replaced the emotional payoff. Your toxic habit was doing a job. Maybe not a healthy job. Maybe not a job that moved your life forward. But it was solving something internally. Maybe it helped you escape pressure. Maybe it numbed loneliness. Maybe it gave you control when life felt overwhelming. So if you want real transformation, you must give your brain a better option. Not a perfect option, a better one. Ask yourself this powerful question. When the urge hits, what will I do instead? And your answer must be simple, immediate, repeatable. Because complicated plans collapse under emotional pressure. For example, when stress rises, take a 2-minute walk. When the urge to procrastinate appears, work for just 60 seconds. When negative self-talk starts, speak one deliberate, empowering sentence out loud. When late-night scrolling begins, put the phone down and drink water first. Notice something important here. These replacements are intentionally small because small actions lower resistance. Small actions build consistency, and consistency rewires the brain far more effectively than occasional bursts. Right now, don't skip this part. Decide your replacement habit. Not 10 options, not something unrealistic. One simple action you will use as your pattern breaker this week. Choose it, because clarity creates control. You are retraining your nervous system to feel safe, focused, and in control, without self-sabotage. And that shift changes everything. Now we arrive at the step most people underestimate: identity. Listen carefully. You cannot permanently live like someone you still don't believe you are. Because this is where many people unknowingly trap themselves. Their self-image stays stuck in the past. They say, "I'm just someone who struggles. I've always been this way." And those quiet sentences become chains. Because your brain is always trying to keep your behavior consistent with your identity. So even when you make progress, if your identity hasn't evolved, your old patterns will try to pull you back. Li Lun Ne Wrong. That's why real transformation requires something deeper than willpower. It requires identity evidence. Every time you interrupt the habit, you are casting a vote. Every time you choose the replacement behavior, another vote. And slowly, almost invisibly, your brain begins to update the story of who you are, not based on motivation, based on proof. So right now, I want you to complete this sentence in your mind. I am becoming the kind of person who, what? Choose your new identity with intention, because your future habits are listening to what you believe about yourself today. Toxic habits are not permanent. They are learned patterns, and anything learned can be unlearned. Step by step. Li Lun Ne Wrong. Make this moment real. Go to the comments right now and type, "I am becoming stronger," not just as words, as a decision. Li Lun Ne Wrong. If you're serious about building the disciplined version of yourself, subscribe. The life you want is hiding inside the habits you change. Starting today. Li Lun Ne Wrong.